Hello, and welcome to the TOEFL Test, your passport to study abroad webinar as part of the College Week Live Test Prep Week. My name is Michelle Hampton, and I'm Associate Director of Global Client Relations here at ETS. We are the makers of the TOEFL Test, and I'm happy to share with you information that can help you be successful when you sit for the TOEFL test. So let's talk first about what exactly is the TOEFL test. It is an English language proficiency test that's going to look at the ways that non-native speakers of English use and understand English in spoken, written, and heard environments on a college or university campus. And it's also used primarily for admission into universities where the language of instruction will be in English. And it's accepted at both graduate, postgraduate, and undergraduate levels. You'll also find that at times the TOEFL test will be used by a certain country for immigration purposes or for certification and licensure. For example, for those who are nurses and now want to work in a different country. Those who are seeking scholarship or placement may also be asked to present their TOEFL scores. Taking the TOEFL test gives you many advantages. I'm going to share some with you, and you'll also see that as we go through, there are probably more than I could even begin to name. But first, I want to make you aware that the TOEFL test is the most accepted English language proficiency used by colleges and universities worldwide. In fact, over 9,000 institutions, that includes universities, government agencies, scholarship and fellowship programs, etc., in over 130 countries accept and require the TOEFL test scores for English proficiency evidence. More than 27 million people have taken the test. Oh, and I should also point out, I'm starting to see questions come in. I'm going to respond to your questions after I presented all the information because I want to make sure that we've covered everything, and it is possible that the answer to your question might be coming up in the next few slides. So if you'll bear with me, I think you'll find that this will be quite productive to go through it this way. Now, let's go to the next slide. Some other advantages that the TOEFL test offers is the fact that it is the most fair and unbiased test. When we're scoring your test, for example, in the case of the speaking section, we do not use just one person to evaluate your speaking skills. Instead, we use multiple people and we do it anonymously so that way they will not have formed any opinions or biases for or against your abilities. In fact, all of the folks that we use to rate or score your speaking section of the test, as well as your writing section of the test, are English language educators. So they are people who are very familiar with working with students who are new to acquiring English language as one of their many languages that they speak. You'll also find that we have multiple locations to take the test in over 160 countries worldwide. And since we're emphasizing communicative English, the way we do it is by using integrated questions. And that means a question that you might read will ask you to draw information from what you just heard in the headset, a conversation between a professor and a student, as well as what you may have just read. So then you will speak your answer in regards to the question. So it's combining the skills that you would use every day in your communications in the classroom and outside. Part of the reason why universities value the TOEFL test so much is because we have over 50 years of being in existence and used for university entrance placement. We also find that we give fair, objective valid, and reliable scores so that institutions can have tremendous faith and trust in the score information we're sharing. The fact that our actual test questions simulate what you'd experience on a university campus, again, gives them confidence in what they're seeing. They know that if you can do well on that test, you should do very well in their classrooms and on their campuses. Since we're drawing information from academic coursework that's given in a university setting, again, it should give you confidence that you would be able to do well when you continue your studies at the university level. Let's take a look at the actual test format for the TOEFL IBT, or internet-based test. Presently, as indicated before, 99% of the tests for TOEFL taken worldwide are given in the IBT, or internet-based format. So that's why we're going to focus on that specifically throughout our time together. So first, we'll talk about the fact that there's a reading section. All total, there's 4 different sections: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. The reading section will contain either 3 or 4 passages from academic texts that you will read through, and then you'll have to answer 12 to 14 questions per passage that you've read. We allow anywhere from 60 to 80 minutes testing time to complete it. The reason for that broad span is it depends on whether you have 3 or 4 passages, and also whether you have 12 or 13 or 14 questions that you have to answer. The reading section is scaled from a low of 0 to a high of 30. The listening section contains anywhere from 4 to 6 lectures, some with classroom discussion, 6 questions each that you'll have to answer, as well as 2 or 3 conversations that you'll listen to with 5 questions each that you'll have to answer. We allow anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes to answer the listening section, and it's also scored from a low of 0 to a high of 30. You receive a 10-minute break, during which time we always recommend students go to the restroom, restock the free scratch paper that we provide you, because sometimes students want to take notes as they're taking the test, and other times students want to try and write a word, perhaps if they're struggling to understand it. Then when you come back, there's always a speaking section, and in that case, there are 2 tasks or questions that are asking you to express an opinion when you speak. There will also be 4 tasks or questions asking you to speak based on a reading and listening passage that's part of the test. We allow 20 minutes time to deal with this entire section because that's sufficient. You will be scored anywhere from a low of 0 to a high of 30. In the case of the writing, there are 2 tasks or questions that you'll have to answer. One will be an integrated task, which we ask you then to write based on what is read and what you hear. And we also have an independent task where we're asking you to support an opinion on a topic that we present as part of the test. You'll have 50 minutes in total to complete the entire writing section. And that's also scored from a low of 0 to a high of 30. Every test taker of the TOEFL IBT receives also a total score. And the way that we calculate that is we add the scores that you've earned in each of the 4 sections together to come up with a total score that will range between 0 and 120. So you'll find some of the programs that you're considering applying to will ask you for just your total score, meaning that's 0 to 120, or they might want to know all 4 of your section scores, or they might want to know both, your 4 section scores as well as your total score. All of that information is contained within your score report, which we will look at in just a moment. Sometimes there are certain questions that many of the students ask in our webinars that we thought it would be helpful if we addressed right now. And some of those questions are, how do you register for the TOEFL test? There are three different ways. You can register online at the TOEFLGoAnywhere.org website or at www.ets.org/TOEFL. You can register by phone. The phone numbers are available on the websites. You'll also find that you can register by mail. So all three options are available to you. And for some of you, you'll find that there's also some in-country or within region registration centers that you can go to register for the test. How long is the TOEFL IBT test? Well, it's about 4 hours to complete it from start to finish. If you do finish early before others in the room, you are more than welcome to leave the test center at that time. What do you need to bring on test day? Now, this is very, very important. If you have the proper, valid, acceptable identification documents, you will be permitted to sit and take the test that day. If you fail to have the appropriate, valid, acceptable identification documents with you when you check in at the test center, you will not be able to go in and take the test. So you will have found that your efforts to test that day were fruitless. So it's very important that your accurate information is on your registration documents that you bring. The name that you have on your registration must match the name on your identification documents. So when you create your TOEFL registration profile online, you must make sure that the name you enter is what will be on those identification documents you'll present on test day. You'll also need to bring your registration confirmation. Many students want to know, when are their scores going to be available? And this is important because you want to make sure that if your admission deadline has been published of, let's say, March 15th, you want to make sure that your scores reach the university or the fellowship program or the embassy for your immigration review in time. TOEFL IBT test scores are usually available online within 10 days after taking the test. You will see it in your profile, the one that you create for registration, at that time. If you listed a university to receive your scores at the point of registration, then those scores will be sent to the university at the 10th day. What is the passing score for the TOEFL test? There's actually no passing score. Each university or score recipient, whether it's a fellowship program or a scholarship, will decide what score it's looking for in order to accept a student for admission or to grant an award. So make sure you check with the organization that you're sending your scores to find out what their requirements are and to see if your scores make you eligible. Now, as we move forward, I mentioned that we were going to look at what a score report looks like, what you would receive, and in this case, what we're seeing is what your university or fellowship program or agency would receive. And that would be your official score report. That's where you're asking us to send the scores on your behalf. You'll find that it contains the same information that'll be on your score report, which is your name, your identification information, your 4 section scores, as well as your total scores. It will also include the photo we take of you at the test center on test day. That way, the institution is certain that they have the scores for the correct individual. We send that off as per your request. Your own scores, you'll find, are actually available not only in your registration profile, but if you request us to send you a paper copy of your scores, This is exactly what you would receive. You'll notice that your score report as an examinee or test taker is green in the background. You'll also notice that your score report still has your photo, the same as what the university will receive, your 4 section scores as well as your total score, your identification information, your name, but it also gives you feedback, performance feedback on how you did in each section of the test, ways in which you can improve your performance if you choose to test again, which can be quite helpful if that is your plan. You'll also find that the student copy does go for 2 pages because, again, since there's 4 sections of the test, we give you feedback on each of the 4. So this does give that detailed information. Now, for the students who are going to go ahead and register at the TOEFLGoAnywhere.org website, this would be the first page that you would see. And as you can see right above on this slide, we do list that website for you. What you can find on the website will be the ability to look up the universities that you're interested in and find out what their score requirements are if they've shared them. And you'll also find out you can register online from this particular link. You can access and order not only our free test prep resources, but also the ones we have for sale. You can also access some of the video tips that we offer for not only learning English and doing well, but also for preparing for the test and what to expect on test day. We'll look a little closer at some of the features of this website. As you can see, one of the things you can do, and I mentioned, was to look for a test center where you can take the test. You can access it, in this case, by going to the website listed here. You will search by country, the first letter of the country, and you'll find that that will pull up for you the test centers, just letting you know the city and the format of the test given, and then the dates where there are currently seats available. So each time you log in, that information can change slightly because it will depend on exactly how many seats are still open at that exact moment. But it would let you have a sense of where you could take the test. It is possible to register to take the test in a different country from the one in which you live. For example, if you'll be on holiday with your family and you'd like to test in that location, you can do so. If you're currently studying in a school in Germany, but you're a Swiss resident, you can register to test in Germany. So all of that is possible, and you can look up those options on this website. Now, you'll also find that when you create your registration profile, as I mentioned before, you will need to enter the correct matching name as appears on your ID. But it is in this registration profile where you'll also see your scores. You'll be able to place an order to send your scores to an institution or an organization. You will also be able to view your scores the entire 2 years that the scores are valid and active, which is very helpful. This is a look at what that destination search would be like. So when you want to look up a school to find out its score requirements, these would be the screens that you would see. You can search by the name of the university, if you know it, the full name, or just perhaps the more common name it is known by. You can also search by the location. For example, if you know you want to study in London, you could enter that information. You will find that as you bring up the institution, if they have set forth a TOEFL score requirement, whether it is for undergraduate studies or postgraduate studies, it would be listed accordingly. You'll also find the university's website is contained on that page so that you can get more information directly from that university. And we always recommend that you do visit the university website to make sure that you're looking at the most accurate and recent application requirement information. One of the services we provide to test takers is very helpful if you're a student who is perhaps uncertain of which university offers the program you wish to study. Or let's say you know you want to study in Italy, but you're not sure which universities teach a course in English. You can participate in our TOEFL search service. It allows you to indicate what you're looking for in a college or university, your academic course of study, perhaps a location in the world, the size of the institution itself, those kinds of criteria. And anytime a university matches the same information you're looking for, then that university sends you an email and information about them. And they'll discuss why they think they're a good match for you to consider. So it's a great way to get information about universities and programs of study worldwide that you may not have even considered before, or locations that you want to go to and you want more information than you currently have. This is a service that is free to you as the test taker. I would highly recommend it as a great way to learn more about institutions. You'll find there are many resources for our students who are going to take the TOEFL test. Sometimes it's information that we share, sometimes it's information that students are sharing with each other. One such example is the fact that we have TOEFL pages on Facebook. For those of you in countries that have access to Facebook, you'll find that this is a great resource for you to access study videos, information about preparing for the test, free test prep materials, including sample questions, as well as information about any in-country local events that are available to help you prepare and succeed at taking the TOEFL test. And for our students who are located in China, we are also a part of the Sino Weibo page. So it does give you the opportunity to also gain access and information from your peers about the test, as well as information we find would be helpful to you. If you have access to the YouTube channel on your computers, you will find that TOEFL maintains a TV channel there. And on that channel, we have videos of tips about speaking and learning English given by English language educators from around the world. We also have information from colleges or universities who would like to have international students join their campus and study with them. They may talk about the services they provide not only to international students, but also what they require for their TOEFL scores and requirements for admission. You'll find that there's a video series called Inside the TOEFL Test, containing 5 videos, and a Meet the Study group containing 4 videos. We'll talk about those in just a few minutes. Currently, we have over 36,000 subscribers to our TOEFL TV YouTube channel, and over 1.9 million views. So certainly consider it as part of your efforts to prepare for the TOEFL test. Now, I mentioned before some of those video series that we host. This is a nice quick view of what some of those are. For example, we have the TOEFL Resources, an overview for students. There we're talking just in general about how to prepare for the test so that you can do your best. When we show you the video inside the TOEFL test, speaking and writing, that's where we're focusing specifically on those 2 sections of the test, because we do understand for test takers that those 2 are perhaps the ones that they are most concerned about doing well on. So we address some of those. We look at the question types so you can become more familiar with what will be expected of you on test day and hopefully gain greater confidence in your abilities on those sections. We also offer videos entitled with the following names: Welcome to the TOEFL IBT test site so you can see what it's like on registration day. Um, the TOEFL test, your passport to the world. And in that video, we're talking about how the TOEFL test is used worldwide for admission and accepted by schools and immigration and scholarship programs throughout the world. We also offer the TOEFL Test Advantage, where we actually have admissions officers talking about why they prefer to use TOEFL test scores to assess the English language proficiency of their applicants. All of these are also available in our video library on the ETS website in case you do not have access to YouTube in your country. I mentioned earlier that we offer free test prep. That's very important. Many students don't realize that. We want you to be not only well prepared for the test, to know what to expect in each section, but also to feel that you have the opportunity to access help and assistance without charging. And that's why we've created these particular tools. The first is the TOEFL Test Sampler. This is something that is sent to you automatically when you register for a TOEFL test. If you do not register for a TOEFL test, let's say you're not sure of a future test date, but you've created a profile already, or you have not yet created a profile, but you know you want to prepare, these other three options are available to you without having registered for a test. The free sample questions, that's available, as you can see, online. You can download it or you can print it, whichever is preferable for you. The test prep planner, which we'll talk about in a minute, is also available online as a download. And the TOEFL Quick Prep, again, available online. Now, let's look at what the TOEFL Test Prep Planner has to offer. It really is an 8-week preparation plan. Sometimes students have planned that far ahead to know that they have to take the test, and they want to work on preparing themselves over that 8 weeks. Sometimes students know that only a certain section of the test is a concern for them. And in that case, they may want to focus all their efforts just on that one section. Well, using the TOEFL Planner, you can focus just on the exercises that surround that particular skill, whether it's writing, speaking, reading, or listening. You'll also find that the Test Prep Planner does give you the scoring rubric, so you can understand what we're looking for when we give a high score or a medium score or a low score for a student's performance, let's say in the speaking or the writing section. When we look next at our TOEFL Quick Prep program, we're really considering then students who want to have just a little bit of time to prepare but want to make the most of it before their test day. These students will find that choosing from different volumes gives them the opportunity to make sure that they have access to samples of all 4 skills and their questions, but it also gives them the opportunity to use it in a classroom setting or on their own independently. So for some students, they want a simple, easy, quick guide to go through, and this is a great resource. Next, we have the TOEFL IBT Test Prep. Now, these resources are available for purchase. You would have to pay to have them. We offer the official TOEFL IBT tests with audio, which contains 5 real practice tests and an audio CD. We'll talk more about all of these in a minute. The official guide to the TOEFL test, which is a handbook. The TOEFL Practice Online, which is a shorter version of an actual single test that you'll be taking. And then the TOEFL IBT Online Prep Course, which is an online tutorial that you can do at home for self-study, or it's possible your English language teacher at the school will use it as a classroom exercise. Let's look at each one now. In the case of the official guide to the TOEFL test, here you have a book that contains 3 full-length practice tests, so you could take one cold, get a sense of how you perform, and then focus your skills on improving the areas where you're weakest. Take the second full-length practice test to judge your progress, Continue to work as your test day draws near, and then maybe take that third one to ensure that you are ready the day or two before your actual test. This handbook does contain scoring information, so you can get a sense of what it is, again, that our raters are looking for when they evaluate your performance. It is available both electronically, if you'd rather have it that way, or as a paper book with an interactive CD. The ebook contains all of the same information. We do make them available in both Mac and PC format, so that way you have access to it regardless of which device you use. And you'll also find that we offer select bilingual publications of this particular guidebook. We have it in simplified Chinese, French, Indonesian, Japanese, and Korean. So hopefully you will find that this is a good resource for you wherever you are. For students who strictly want just practice tests, that's all they want to do is try taking the test to improve their overall performance, then this particular book would be of use for you. Again, this is a paper book that is available with a CD, but it does contain 5 real past TOEFL IBT tests that have been given and are now released for public use. So the questions in this guidebook and the previous guidebook will never again appear on an official test, but they're great examples for you to become familiar with so that you will be able to know what to expect on test day. This particular book also comes with bilingual editions in simplified Chinese and Korean. The TOEFL Practice Online allows you the ability to, again, focus on the areas where you need most practice. So for students who want to participate in this, they could use it as half-day tests. They could focus just on speaking and writing, or they could focus solely on reading and listening. It contains a full-length test, so it is possible you could do the whole thing if you wish. Many of our students find that since there are 6 different versions released every year, that it does give them the opportunity to try one or maybe 2 different ones to, again, assess their skill improvement. In the case of the TOEFL IBT online prep course, this is the newest tool that we offer for students to prepare for the test. It is an online tutorial that you can access. All total, the course content is expected to be completed over 80 hours. And it can be done independently on your own, or it could be done in a classroom setting. Again, so your English language instructor might give this to the entire class. It covers all 4 skills. There are pre-tests that help you, again, in determining where you need to improve. And then there are post-tests to allow you to assess how much improvement you've made over the time that you worked on the activities in the book. Now, let's look at some other ways that we can make these options affordable to you. We know for some of our students who are interested in the test prep that we have for sale, they often will combine different products to make sure that they have access to the best possible resources. And we, recognizing that, decided to offer discounted rates for those most frequently chosen packages. And as you can see here, there are quite a few to choose from. So if a student only wants the TOEFL Practice Online, they can get that at a discount of 40% savings. If students know that they want 2 particular products, 3, or even 4, again, all of those options are here at a much less expensive rate than if you were to purchase each of them individually. So keep that in mind. Lastly, I want to talk about the fact that we do offer TOEFL scholarships. Currently, they're available for students in China, India, Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. Not only does a student need to present a TOEFL score for consideration, but also the students have to demonstrate that they've excelled academically in their prior coursework. that they have leadership skills, and that they participated in extracurricular activity. The reason being is that this is a comprehensive scholarship that will be sent to the university where you enroll, and it is designed to be given to students whether they are pursuing an undergraduate degree or a postgraduate degree. So there's a great many options here. Now, as we've covered quite a bit together here during test prep week, I know that you may have certain questions, and I'll be happy to answer them now. So feel free to type them up and send them in. I do see some are already starting to come in, which I do appreciate, so let me address those. Um, Here's the first one. I don't have a social security number. How can I register for the test? You can register for the test without a social security number because that is not a required field. We realize that that's unique to students who are U.S. citizens. So we don't make it a mandatory field. Let's see. Here's another question. Is it possible to come to TOEFL with a small bag of food or water and stuff like pencils, eraser, etc.? Actually, this is a very good question. You'll find information about what you can bring to the test center that's allowed on the TOEFL Go Anywhere website. But just to highlight, when a student goes into the testing room, they will not be able to bring in a bag of food or, in many cases, even their purse or pocketbook. Instead, they will be restricted in what they can bring in as a matter of test security. Most test centers provide either lockers or a secure place where you can keep your personal belongings. Those are not allowed in the test center. Because the computer is your main source for taking the test, we do realize that there's, for the most part, no need to bring a writing implement like a pencil or a pen into the test center. But we also know that, as I said before, some students like to take notes when they're taking the test. So we not only provide you with scratch paper, but we provide you with a pencil going into the test center. So it's all right if you don't bring one. Now, when we look at some other questions here, I see there's a question, can we, the test center, provide earphones for the test? In fact, we do. We have a headset that also has a built-in microphone available for each test taker in a test center. You will be able to use those throughout the test as necessary. Here's another question. Will the scholarships for TOEFL be available to students in Latin America? We're currently working and reviewing on our abilities to offer scholarships in more countries. That certainly is a goal of ours, and do know that we share that. So we are working to do that. I don't have an exact time as to how quickly it will happen, but that is definitely something we're working on. Okay, here's another question. Let's see. How much TOEFL score is needed to get a scholarship? And actually that does vary for each qualification. We actually don't publish a cutoff score because it really does depend on the applicant pool that we're looking at in a given year. So I don't have a handy answer for you. Certainly we want students to do their best possible work. And again, we consider all of the applicants who would be available for the scholarships. Now I have a question asking, I'm always less secure in my reading and my listening skills. I do a lot of practice for these two sections and not for others, but I always score better in writing and speaking. That's very common, that certain students do well continuously in certain areas. Those are your natural innate strengths and really should be appreciated, not ignored. The other areas are areas of weakness for you, and you're doing the right thing by focusing your energies on trying to improve those. where your strength lies, in your case, writing and speaking, that will always be the case and that will always carry you through. So follow the path you're on and continue to improve the areas where you're weakest. That's good general advice for everyone. Let's see, here's another question. Will the test results be communicated right after the test, or do I have to wait a certain amount of days? Actually, with the TOEFL IBT test, you will have to wait until 10 days after your test. There is no immediate score feedback given to you on test day for the TOEFL exams. Let's see. I have a student asking if it's possible to get more information about the writing section of the TOEFL test. You'll find that you can get more information at the website, and in fact, by even looking at some of the sample questions, you can get a sense of what it's like. But let me try and describe it for you. You will see when you get to that section, there will be a passage that you'll have to read. You will then be able to answer questions based on what you see in that passage. So you don't need any prior knowledge or to reference anything else in order to write your response. But in some cases, you might also have to put on your headset, listen to a conversation about that passage, read the passage, and then write your answer. So it's an opportunity for you to draw from the information that's available to give the answer that is best. Okay. I have a question asking if I could show the website again and name the books. All right. So on the screen that you see now is that website, www.TOEFLGoAnywhere.org, and that's all together. The books I can scan back to because I know that's important for you. Let's see here. I think this was the first page where we started with the books. This is the official guide, and you'll find this is the one that has the 3 full-length tests in it. This actually, on the next slide, is the page that shows, or the book that shows 5 practice tests. So I think that information would be helpful too. The preference is yours. That first book we spoke of is available as an electronic book. So you have an option there, whether to get the electronic or the paper version of the book. In the case of this particular publication that has the 5 tests in it, we have it only available as a paper book. So keep that in mind as to your preference. Let me see what other questions have come in. All right, I'm going to also go back to the last slide because I want to make sure that people have access to that website if they're making notes. Now here's another question. In general, do we need any specific TOEFL score to try for a PhD? And in this, the person asking is saying that they mean, is there a better grade or a higher score than what an undergraduate student would need? That really varies from program to program. In some cases, it is very common to see that the expectation is that a person pursuing a PhD more than likely has studied or been exposed to speaking or learning in an English language environment previously. So yes, it is possible that the score requirement for a PhD might be higher, but it also might be higher simply because the institution where you're seeking to earn your PhD does not offer much English language proficiency support. If any school, whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate, does not have a great deal of support for students, it then often requires students to demonstrate a higher level of proficiency, earning a higher score, and therefore not needing more help, those students would do best in an environment without support. A student with a lower score or a student who needs to improve more in their skills would not thrive or do well in that environment. Instead, that student who needs more help needs a campus and a program that offers that help. So that can often be the difference between the program requirements that you'll see. Let's see. Here's one question. If you are applying for one of the scholarships from TOEFL for a postgraduate degree, is it necessary to pass TOEFL-based testing while you were seeking your undergraduate degree? No, that's not necessary. You actually can take the TOEFL test as part of your application process for your postgraduate degree without any prior attempts at taking it or any previous time spent in a classroom that was giving classes in English. Okay. All right. The good news that I want to share with you, and I have a comment here, a student who was able to join our webinar a little late is concerned that they didn't hear everything. Well, the good news is that College Week Live will keep this particular webinar active as a recorded session for roughly 3 weeks. So you'll be able to listen at your leisure to the entire webinar again if you choose, or just listen up until the time when you joined us. So that's good to know. And certainly share that information with your friends in case they're concerned that they didn't get a chance to participate in today's webinar as a part of Test Prep Week and hear the information they wished to know about TOEFL. Let's see. All right. I have another question. How can I find out how much the TOEFL test costs? Well, it does vary by country, and that information is available on the website. You can actually find that out at TOEFLGoAnywhere.org before you've even registered. That kind of information we think is important to help students decide when or if they will take the test. Okay. I have another question. Are there any recommended books for practice? Well, the two books that I showed in the webinar, and I'm going to go back to those slides. One is the official TOEFL IBT Tests with Audio guidebook. We use McGraw-Hill as our publisher, so they've created this in cooperation with us, so we have confidence in the information that's involved because we know that it includes questions from previously administered TOEFL tests because we've shared that. And it also contains accurate scoring keys so you can get a sense of which questions you got right or wrong. We also offer an official guide to the TOEFL test. This one has only 3 full-length tests, but it is available in both Mac and PC format as an ebook or electronic book or as a paper book. So you have a choice with this particular publication. I hope that information was helpful. I have a student here who's indicating that they took the TOEIC test. Now, TOEIC is another test that we here make. It is an English language proficiency test, but it is used usually in the work environment. So I don't have information about that here as part of this particular webinar, but you can find information about it by going to www.ets.org/TOEIC, TOEIC. Let's see. And I have another question coming in. The student is asking, where can they take the test? Where students can find that information about test centers that are offering the test dates that are coming up, is within the TOEFL Go Anywhere website, or if you go to the general ets.org/TOEFL website. Either would give you that information. And again, you can register to take the test in a country you are not currently living in. If, for example, you'll be on holiday or you're studying outside of your country of residence, or if you're working in an environment outside of your country of residence. It is possible to do it that way. Let's see, I have time for a few more of these questions. Um, is the TOEIC test, which was the one for business purposes, English proficiency for business purposes, is it accepted for university admission? Actually, each university will make that decision. I can't speak for them as a whole, but usually the TOEFL test, which contains academic text and questions, is the preferred English language proficiency assessment for student visas and university enrollment. All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come to the TOEFL webinar today. I hope you do well on your future test whenever you choose to take it. And remember, we offer test prep because we want you to succeed here at the TOEFL test. Whether you're taking it for your first time or your second time, we know that it's important to have resources available, and we're here to help you. I want to wish you the best of luck in your program, and also make you aware that if by any chance there was a question you asked that I did not yet have a chance to answer, please send your question to TOEFL@ets.org. That's our email address for students who have questions and future test takers who have questions about the TOEFL test. Thank you very much, and good luck.